And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekday Warriors of Wrestling for Thursday, April 7th, 2022. I'm Erik Clancy, joined by Patrick Kelley. You will probably be hearing this on Friday, April 8th, but we are here nonetheless. We are a few days out, and by out, I mean past WrestleMania 38, night one and night two. So yeah, let's jump into it. Obviously, there's a lot of things to talk about: Steve Austin, Cody, Vince McMahon, Roman Reigns, a lot of things going on. Why don't we jump into night one, Patrick, on WrestleMania Saturday?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we opened the show with the Usos against Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs, which, man, as someone who doesn't watch WWE consistently, I think that they just ruined Boogs' look. I think he used to be like so cool with his like long hair and like his the way he had his trunks. Now he's like this weird Freddie Mercury, Ted Arcidi type look, and it's like I don't know. I think they like ruined him with that look.
I don't know what his old look looked like because I've only seen him as this because I saw him at the Royal Rumble and then I saw him here. So I don't know what exactly was he doing before this.
You didn't see him when he was Eric Bugenhagen in
No,
NXT?
I saw none of that.
Oh, that was like when you were watching though.
Was it? I must not remember it.
Yeah. He was like a guitar dude, but he had like longer hair. He had like short trunks, like bike, like Randy Orton style initial trunks, you know, when he had those like, yeah. So it seems like they were going to go over, but then Boog suffered an injury and the Usos won.
Yeah. I thought the match itself was fine, perfectly solid opener, and I think they covered up for the injury well enough and actually had it playing to the finish. Now, I haven't heard, is it true that the Usos were supposed to drop the titles here, but because of the injury, they kind of cooked up a finish on their own?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying is I think I'm pretty sure Nakamura and Boogs, I heard, were going to go over. Mm-hmm. They were going to start off with the babyface team winning. But yeah, they had to make the change, which was I think surprising to me and a lot of people, because if you look at that match, it did seem like kind of that was like they worked it into the finish kind of seamlessly. Like, oh, his knee's hurting and we're gonna jump on so his knee breaks down and then pin him, and it's like, wow, that's like I was actually surprised it was a legit injury afterwards.
Yeah, because it, like you said, it played in so seamlessly. It's like I've seen matches with veterans, like longtime veterans like Triple H, where an injury will happen mid-match and the whole thing just falls apart.
Yeah,
that DX rated RKO match from years ago comes
New Year's Revolution.
Mm-hmm. And but this one, I thought that this was the intended thing. So good job to Nakamura and the Usos for being able to cover it up and go home in a clean way.
Yeah. And you could see how disappointed Nakamura was there. I mean, not just because he got hurt, but like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it sucks, but that's what happens. It kind of like, I don't know. I don't even know if I would have had the Usos lose, because I think just having them have the titles going into like Roman's match makes it just seem like him seem more invincible, you know?
Yeah, you can go either way with it, because the other side of the argument is they drop the titles and it creates some like idea that the whole faction's going to fall. So you can go either way with it, and neither one is wrong. So, but yeah. I do kind of agree with you. I think, especially on Raw the next night when they all came out with all the belts, I was like, yeah, it's probably best that they kept it on the Usos.
Yeah. All right, next we had Drew McIntyre against Happy Corbin. He couldn't lose. And let me tell you something. I must have seen that video recap like 10 times. These shows were full of video recaps. Like it just went match, recap. It was amazing to me that they like, oh, we had to bump the New Day off the first show. Because we didn't have enough time. Like, couldn't you have not shown one recap? Like, did we need to see the Seth Rollins recap when like it was just Seth Rollins in the recap?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I was having the same conversation with somebody the other day. It's like, man, they really do spam the video packages. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's crazy. And both nights were roughly 3.5, 4 hours each, I think. And it's
Hmm.
like, how much of that is just video packages?
I would I would guess like 20-25% probably.
Yeah, it's just insane. But my other question in regards to this match is, how many times has Baron Corbin been repackaged? I feel like every time I turn around, he's got a new gimmick.
Well, he's been Happy, he's been Constable, he's been King,
King? Yeah.
he's been Baron. It's almost like it's interesting because Baron, Constable, and King are all like titles. Um, but yeah, no, he's Happy. It's been a lot. I mean, it's funny. I think of these guys. I think of like guys like Corbin and like Becky and stuff as like NXT people because they were in NXT. But then I'm like, oh man, Happy Corbin's been on this roster since 2016. That's 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like it time flies. You know?
I remember when he was a fresh-faced youngster just squashing people, and now he's just the boring guy eating up time on a pay-per-view. And I don't know how you felt about this match, but I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. It was just filling time. Yeah.
It was fine. I guess I thought it went a little too long. I mean, they needed to have Drew go over because they need baby faces to challenge for titles. But yeah, no, it was fine. I guess like it was fine. Like is my reaction to it completely.
I don't, and again, maybe this is a symptom of me not watching WWE for so long, but I don't understand Drew's whole thing with the sword. Like, is he trying to murder the heels? Like,
it seems so.
Like, why is he allowed to do that?
I don't know, but he cut through, and then he immediately he's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't kill him, but I broke the ropes, and now I'm gonna flex."
Good for you, buddy. Now the ring crew has to do extra work. Good job.
I know. He's classic WWE babyface.
Very inconsiderate.
Yeah. Okay, next we had The Miz and Logan Paul against the Mysterios. And this was like the constant reminder throughout the thing that like how much more over the celebrities were than the actual wrestlers.
Oh my God.
Because first of all, Logan Paul was super over. Second of all, Logan Paul has like more star quality than like 90% of the roster. And and it's just like he was like, God, I mean, he was the tallest guy in the match, which it wasn't super hard with like the Mysterios in there. But he you know, he's got a great look. He like instinctively gets it. And you know, the celebrities that get it, like you've seen the ones that come in and you're like, wow, this person like understands. And like there's certain people that like do get it. And he's one of them. And you can see why his boxing matches are such a big box office draw, because like I'm watching that guy and he's wrestled approximately 0 professional wrestling matches, and he's like putting on a great match and he's created a great character. So
and he's better than Dominic.
Yeah, which is yeah.
Who has a couple years under his belt.
Yeah, he has a couple of years. He has the genetics of one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And yeah, it's nuts. He would never do it, but if he wanted to be a pro wrestler, he would be an absolute superstar.
Completely. I think he was the best looking one in the match. Like just looking at him, he's the one that looks the most like a star. And you know, him and Miz were so hated, and Mysterio still, even at his age, can still bounce around like a pinball. So that made the match a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. And then of course Miz turned on him at the end, but then got a huge babyface reaction. So there was that. Yeah. So there we go. Next we had what I thought was the second best match of the night. It was Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. There were some sloppy spots in this, but I thought the intensity and the emotion was generally very good. I thought it was better, and I liked the Bianca Sasha match last year, but I thought this was better because first of all, Becky was a more prominent champion. She, like, you know, Sasha as a champion, I love Sasha. I think she's a great performer, but I don't think she's ever defended that title successfully. And so you always expect her to lose. Whereas Becky, you know, like nobody beat Becky since like I don't know, like 2018 or something, like something ridiculous. Because she gave up the title, she didn't get pinned for it. So like Becky doesn't lose. So that was like a real big star making moment for Bianca on top of what they already did last year. So that was, and it was a nice payoff to a like 6-month long storyline. When Becky came back at SummerSlam and beat her in 2 seconds, like normal WWE logic would be like, well, Becky's just going to go on and do whatever, but they actually paid it off and followed it up. So I thought the match was really good, and I thought it was a nice payoff to a long story.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think as a match, I preferred the Sasha Bianca match from last year. I guess from technical proficiency standpoint,
Sure.
I think it was the better executed match. But like you said, I think the story for this one was much better set up, and you got the satisfying title change out of it too. So I thought it came off fairly well.
All right, next we had Seth Rollins against his mystery opponent. We all know who it was by now. The lights went out. Not only did Kingdom play, but we got the Wrestling Has More Than One Royal Family intro. We got the Homelander outfit. We got tons of pyro. We got the Cody Vader. We got the complete AEW Cody Rhodes presentation coming in, having really an AEW style match, probably a more AEW style match than a Cody Rhodes style match with Rollins. And Cody went over at WrestleMania, and it really seemed, and based on what they did with him the next night, it really seemed like, hey, you can come from AEW to WWE and we'll treat you like a star, because I feel like they never would have done this in pre-2019, post-2000.
Absolutely not. And Cody, and yes, it was spoiled long before that he was going to be the mystery opponent here. But in one night, 2 nights, if you count the promo on Raw the next night, he already looks like the top babyface in WWE. Like coming out of WrestleMania and this great performance he had against Seth, excellent match. My only knock on it is that I wouldn't have had Seth kick out of his finishers on the first night. It kind of kills Cody's finishers on the first night. But other than that, I thought the match was absolutely terrific. And I think Cody right now is not only the best babyface in WWE, but he's like the reason I'm going to keep watching Raw every week.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll do that, but maybe I will, because I did watch this week and I did watch all the possibilities of Cody going in. So, and I mean, let's talk about the promo the next night. He opened the show. And by the way, Raw after WrestleMania normally gets big ratings, but they got monster numbers for this show, the entire show. And he basically said, hey, I'm going after the world title. So he is essentially, if from WWE's perspective, he went in their eyes to Stardust, which they didn't look at very highly. He was a lower mid-card guy, and to now a guy who essentially is probably the top on the brand and probably second only to Brock and Roman. I mean, Brock will probably always be around, but like to Roman in the company's hierarchy. So like not a bad job for Cody as far as like increasing his value.
No, not at all. And I'm curious to see what Roman's announcement is going to be on SmackDown this week, because I'm wondering, is he going to make the Unified Championship SmackDown exclusive as a way to kind of avoid Cody? I wonder if that's what they're going to do on Friday night. We'll find out tomorrow, I guess, but it's they've got some interesting possibilities here.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to. They're going to have a title on Raw some way. They're not going to not have that. And I don't think they're going to have Cody go over Roman. I don't think they're going to have anyone go over Roman until they find that person. We'll get to this in a second, but it's not Braun Breaker or Gable Steveson. They may think it is, but it's not one of those guys. But I don't think they're going to have him lose until that person is there. But they may do a disputed finish. They may do Roman beats Cody, but Cody's foot's under the ropes or something, and then they give him the
Belair
title.
dog double pin.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do something like that or whatever, where Roman doesn't really get beaten, and then you can kind of split off a title or give justification, then you get the title back on. I think that's what they're going to do. That's what they always do. They do that every time after they unify it. Like it happens very quickly afterwards. Yeah. So what do we have?
Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey.
Yeah. Charlotte and Ronda. Everybody hated this match.
I'm among them. I didn't like it either.
Oh, okay. I thought it was good. I thought it just shows like, man, Charlotte beats everybody, because even Ronda goes down to Charlotte. You know, Charlotte's the female Roman, as far as how she's positioned in the company. I mean, it made sense to me. Ronda gets an out, whereas like she didn't really get beaten, but like Charlotte got one over her, and Ronda didn't get the title immediately. We've heard the rumors that this year was Ronda and Charlotte, next year would be Ronda and Becky. I mean, yeah, no, I mean, like, I don't know. I think it's more interesting for Charlotte to win this than for Ronda to win this. So yeah, I was fine with this.
Yeah, I just thought I'm okay with Charlotte winning. I thought, we talk about a little bit of sloppiness in the Becca Bianca match. I thought there were a few spots in this one where they were just either not on the same page, or they were out of sync with each other or something. I don't know what. And then when you get into the closing sequence where, Ronda beat her, but her foot was on the rope, and Ronda beat her, but something, or the ref was not looking, or something like that. It got to a point where it became kind of farcical, and it kind of took me out of the match. You can do that once, but when you start doing it 2-3 times in a match, it takes away the impact, and then it just kind of looks silly by the end of it. So this is one that I thought was going to be really good, and it ended up being kind of like, that happened.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Okay, so then we had our main event for the first night. It was what was supposed to be the Kevin Owens show, but what turned into Stone Cold Steve Austin's first match since 2003, in 19 years, which I guess I should have seen coming when initially it was announced that he was going to have a match. And then they're like, no, never mind, just kidding. It's just going to be a segment. And you're like, okay. And then the whole time in the pre-show, they were like, he hasn't had a match in 19 years. And you're like, well, I mean, he's not going to tonight either. So I guess I should have seen that coming. But yeah, it was a match with Austin, about 14 minutes. Austin, of course, went over with the stunner, and then stunned Coach, which was great. I'll be honest, I would have liked, and I thought he might have, because I heard everybody saying, "Oh, Austin's getting in shape." I would have liked Austin to take off the shirt and like look a little like Steve Austin, like obviously, he had the clothes on and stuff, but like, it was like, and it was a match. It definitely was a match. It was fine for what you'd expect from 60-year-old Stone Cold Steve Austin. But I would have liked to see him in the black trunks, like the old Steve Austin. Yeah. If we're going to do nostalgia, I just wanted that aspect of nostalgia.
Yeah, the leather jacket also, and this was impossible to avoid, but not having JR on commentary yelling, Stone Cold!
Yeah.
That was missing, but it was weird that he didn't take his shirt off. That was kind of strange, but with the obvious limitations that Steve Austin has, and you can tell, like, looking at this, he's slowed down considerably. It's been 19 years, so he's no spring chicken. But I think Kevin Owens deserves a lot of praise for basically working the match around Austin and doing the absolute best he could. And if you went into the show wanting Stone Cold Steve Austin nostalgia, I think the match gave you pretty much what you wanted, and maybe even over-delivered a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. So that was night one. Night two started off with RK Bro being the Street Profits and Alpha Academy in a triple threat match for the tag team titles. I thought this was fine. I thought the RKO from Riddle was pretty cool. I think Riddle and Orton are actually a pretty entertaining team, quite honestly. The biggest thing was at the end of this sequence, or the end of this match, Street Profits offered RK Bro some drinks. Alpha Academy came up they brought up Gable Steveson first. And then Alpha Academy came over and started some stuff, and then Gable Steveson threw him around. WWE is pinning a lot on Gable Steveson. They signed him into their NIL, they're next in line, which is their name, image, likeness deal, which is what different agencies are signing college athletes to so they can market themselves. They set up a ring in his hometown or in his university so he can practice and everything. I've got to say, they're pinning a lot on this guy, thinking he's going to be a Brock Lesnar or Kurt Angle type guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's there at all. I don't think I'm like giving a hot take here. I think a lot of other people see it. I mean, he was almost the size of Chad Gable. Chad Gable, who's a great amateur wrestler, who's a great worker, and who can't get out of his own way there. Gable Steveson is not that much bigger. His look isn't that great. He's not like ripped or anything. I mean, if you remember, Patrick, you remember when they premiered on Smackdown on Fox for the first time, and Cain Velasquez came out, and Cain Velasquez has all sorts of MMA credentials, and he just looked like a guy. And compared to Brock Lesnar, who looks like a monster and who looks like this like comic book character, Cain Velasquez just looks like this weird dude, and Gable Stevenson's like that too. So that's not an issue. You don't have to have the best look in the world, but if you don't have the best look in the world, it helps to have some charisma. And I don't see Gable Steveson having any of that as well. What jumped out at people about Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar wasn't like their in-ring skills or their amateur ability. Like Kurt Angle got over very quickly because of his mic skills, because of his personality. His matches were fine. I mean, I remember him he wrestled Steve Blackman at Armageddon 99, and they chanted boring in the match, which is, I mean, that was par for the course for Attitude Era stuff where they didn't know the people. But Kurt Angle got over on the mic. And that's not to say Kurt Angle was a bad worker early on. He was still learning, and he got really good really quick, of course. But he got over because of his character and because of how he spoke. Brock Lesnar, sure, he didn't get over because of how he spoke, but he got over because somebody spoke for him, and he got over because he was a believable killer. Like, if you didn't know Brock Lesnar was an NCAA champion, it doesn't really hurt him because he still looks like cartoon Eddie Brock. He still looks like this giant man who can also like run as fast as possible. And that's kind of terrifying. Gable Steveson doesn't have either of those things. I mean, maybe he'll get in the mic and be like amazing, and we'll be like, oh, that was stupid for us to say. But, he doesn't seem to have a ton of charisma. His look doesn't be like, well, I don't want to mess with that guy. Although in real life, he'd probably beat the shit out of him or like, out wrestle everybody. I mean, Cain Velasquez was too, but Cain Velasquez didn't give that impression. And that's the difference. And I'm not seeing that out of him. I mean, it's the same thing with Braun Breaker. I watched like a little bit of Braun Breaker this week for the first time on Raw and on NXT. I mean, they've got him playing this Goldberg, Lex Luger type character, and he's shorter than Dolph Ziggler, and he's, I mean, like, to me, he's miscast. He's like, they're trying to get him as this Brock Lesnar type guy, yet he's like half the size of Brock Lesnar. So I'm like, what are we doing? So
well, they also gave him a stupid name, which doesn't help.
Yeah, I know. Rex Steiner is and that's the thing. That's the thing. He's being pushed as a Goldberg when he should be like a Rick Steiner, and it's not really coming off that way to me. So, So I think, and those are the guys I think WWE has so much invested in. Like, WWE gets those like groups of dudes every like 10 years or so. Like it was Brock, Orton, Cena, and Batista, and then it was the Shield guys and Bray Wyatt, and now it's these guys. Like 10 years after that, and it's like, okay, but I don't think it's there. And you could see early on with most of those guys, like, was Brock green as shit? Yeah, but you could see that there was value there. Orton, like, not right away, but like at least he had good size. He started working the mic a lot better. Cena took about a year for it to get it, but you could see something in those guys. I mean, the Shield, holy shit. Like the first interview we saw from Dean Ambrose was like, oh, wow. And Roman had a great look. And Seth, we knew about him from Tyler Black. So we knew these guys, and they showed something. Right now, these guys aren't showing me a ton.
Yeah, Braun Breaker, I think, again, I can't get past the name, but I think if, like you said, if they cast him as something different, went against like this Goldberg, Lex Luger type and cast him more as like a pure wrestling type, like a Steiner brother, I think he'd be in a much better position. Of course, I think they're dooming him with the stupid name anyway, but I see a lot of raw potential in Rex Steiner. I'm just going to keep calling him that. But Gable Steveson, yeah, I mean, I don't want to judge him too harshly because it's literally like his first time in front of a camera doing anything. It kind of reminds me of when Mark Henry was out there like very, very early on. It's like, why is he out there wrestling when he hasn't even been trained yet? And so we'll see. Maybe he'll develop into something, but it's kind of the same thing that we've talked about before with guys like Dan Severn, who, you know, in a real competition, all you have to do is win. You don't have to have the greatest look in the world. You just have to win and that's how you get your credibility. But in the fake fighting world, in the world of entertainment, like professional wrestling, there has to be that kind of something that draws you in because we know it's not real, especially now because nobody protects kayfabe anymore at all. There has to be something about you that makes you believable because we're coming into this knowing that it's not real. So the fact that this guy won a gold medal in wrestling, it's like, yeah, it's very impressive, but doesn't really mean a whole lot in the world of sports entertainment. So
it can help. I mean, it can give you a leg up, but
sure.
You can't be like a sack of wet potatoes.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's got to be more to you than that. And like you said, Kurt Angle did very well. Brock Lesnar did very well. Dan Severn, you know, who was the other one we were talking about? Cain Velasquez couldn't transition because they weren't believable in that sports entertainment world. So far, I kept forgetting his name, to be honest with you, Gable Steveson, but that's also not the greatest name in the world. They may want to consider changing that, but so far I'm not seeing a whole heck of a lot. But I will say this: I did enjoy the three-way tag to open up the show. And, you know, I watched a lot of shows this weekend, and a lot of them had three-way, four-way type matches, and all of them were kind of white noise because it was just bodies flying all over the place. This one, and I think it's because RK Bro is such a good team, and you had Otis, and there was this big fat guy that's like a wall knocking people down. This one actually stood out a little bit more and was a nice little action-packed opener.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, so next we had Omos taking on Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley won in about 6 minutes. This was such a waste, I thought, because you've got so much built up in Omos. Like, he doesn't get knocked over, he doesn't get beaten. Like, there's so much like invested in that. Mm-hmm. So to have a 44-year-old already over Bobby Lashley beat him, it's like, okay, what was the point? Why not bring in Gable Steveson? Why not, like, I don't know, some like Braun Breaker? I don't know, somebody. Like, it just seems like that all that energy put into Omos was wasted.
Now this comes from me not watching WWE programming, so I don't know exactly. I've seen exactly two Omos matches. His match last year at WrestleMania and his match this year. So with my limited experience with him, I actually enjoyed this match because it was very simple, very basic. Like, can this ox like Bobby Lashley take down this gigantic fairy tale creature in Omos? And within those basic outlines, I thought the match worked really well. But I don't know exactly how much they put into Omos for a year.
Well, he doesn't lose, you know, that's kind of it. And like, I think the match worked fine as it was told. I'm just saying, I think they could have done something. They could have done something better with someone else, like, you know,
make a star maker out of it.
Yeah, and like not a huge star, but like something, you know. So that was my issue with that. Next, we had a very polarizing match. It was Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn in an anything goes match.
I bet Jim Cornette loved this.
I bet he loved it. I gotta say, I thought this started off a little slow and a little silly in points. And of course, there were some screw ups and stuff, but by the end, I thought it was really fun. Was it silly as shit? And like, you know, something that you're not going to be like, well, here's what pro wrestling is. But like, when you're having a couple beers, you're watching this, like seeing Wee Man like body slam Sami Zayn, like that was like pretty fun. So I know the mousetrap got screwed up at the end, but like for what this was as a like comedy match, I thought it was fun.
Yeah, my thought on this was, again, it's kind of like I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. I'm not the biggest fan of Jackass, and I know I'm in a minority when I say that. I did
No,
get
no,
it.
I'm not either, but I understood what they brought to the table, and I
Mhm.
understood what their brand of comedy and entertainment is. So
Yeah.
knowing that, I was prepared, and I'm like, okay, this is like what they're doing, what they do,
Mm-hmm. Oh
If
yeah,
you
no,
wanted
it
them on here,
delivered as
here's
advertised.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
if
yeah,
you like Jackass and you're a fan of what those guys do, and you're one of the ones that popped for Wee Man when he came out, you enjoyed the hell out of this. I think it played into exactly the type of people that this match was intended for. Because I'm not the biggest fan of Jackass, I kind of like this match kind of went in one ear and out the other with me. But I also realized that I'm not the person that this match was designed for. So if you like Jackass, check this match out. You'll get a blast out of it.
yeah. I also think of all the people that lost to like non full timer wrestlers, Sami Zayn was the least hurt because like Kevin Owens lost to like a 700-year-old Steve Austin. Austin Theory lost to a commentator.
Oh boy.
Ray lost to like a celebrity. Sami Zayn got beat by like 7 people like working together to hold him down and stuff. So I don't think that hurt Sami Zayn at all.
Yeah, and that was an interesting running theme. I think this WrestleMania had more celebrity matches than any other in history with 3. And the celebrities had a clean sweep and went over all the wrestlers. But we can talk about like whether or not it was a good call in those cases. Like we already talked about Logan Paul. It's like he was the star of the match anyway. So
I gotta say the 3 major celebrities, and if you include Mr. McMahon and Steve Austin, like McMahon's performance was terrible, but like all those guys were like super over. So I whether it's my cup of tea or not, and granted, I really enjoyed watching Logan Paul. I thought he was great. But whether it's my cup of tea or not, it got over, and like being an unbiased viewer, you're like, well, I guess it paid off in that sense.
Well, I'll say this: like the crowd was great both nights. Like very excited, very lively crowd. But I'm also wondering, like they were entertained by it, and I popped for a lot of it too. But there's also that you wonder they also wonder why they can't create new stars, and it's possibly because of situations like this. Like and we'll get into it when we talk about Austin Theory. But even the guys that I'm not that high on, when you put them in those situations, like, well, you're just confirming my suspicions rather than trying to change my mind. So which is worse? I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So the next match we had was the Fatal 4-Way for the Women's Tag Team Championship. This was not good and boring. I guess Sasha got a win at WrestleMania, so there's that. I mean, it was a filler match. I don't know what else to say about it.
There were so many of these matches this weekend, like between the Impact show, the Ring of Honor show, and the NXT show, and this one. So many of these like 3-way, 4-ways, and the opener on night 2 was the exception, where that one I actually enjoyed. This one, it was just total like I said, went in one ear, the out the other, and to show how little of an impact this match made, I remember the double Tower of Doom spot. I could not, for the life of me, if you put a gun to my head, I could not explain to you who was on top of the tower and who was on the bottom because it didn't matter. It was just a bunch of people flying around doing spots.
All right. If I ever need to shoot you in the head, I'm going to make you watch Tower of Dooms that you aren't invested in and ask you to tell me who's in them.
Oh God, I won't last.
That'll be success for me. No. Mm-hmm. Then we had Edge and AJ Styles in the longest match of the 2 nights, I believe.
Yeah, longer than Cody and Seth. Yeah.
It was good. It wasn't this like incredible dream match that dream match, I guess, isn't really a term of how it went. It's more of the preparation, but it wasn't like this match of the year, but it was good. Like, it didn't like, I'm like, yeah, that was fine. Right? Like that was
go ahead.
I know. I was just gonna say, I mean, I like the finish. That was it.
Yeah, the finish was really cool. The match itself, like you said, it wasn't like a WrestleMania classic or a runaway, all-time greatest match or anything like that. But as like the big marathon match on the show, it's like, yeah, it was pretty good. And it's a pairing that I've never seen before, so it felt fresh. And I enjoyed it. Again, is it going to be on my match of the year list by the end of the year? Probably not, but it was still pretty good, and I'll take pretty good.
Next, this was hilarious. We had Sheamus and Ridge Holland against the New Day. and they got bumped off the night before, and they had this whole video package where they're like, oh, Big E got almost paralyzed by this other guy, and Kofi Kingston's by himself, and oh, Xavier Woods is going to come out. They're going to have a match between them. And they set up this whole thing about how they're going to come and get revenge for Big E. And then the match lasts a minute and a half, and they just beat the New Day. It's like, what was the point? Why did you do this? I was like, this is the most WWE thing I can think of.
Yeah, and it's even funnier because I think they got their time cut again. So they got bumped off night one, and then they barely made it on to night two, which tells you how high up on the totem pole this bout was and how important it was to Vince. But the most noteworthy thing about this, other than the hilarious brevity of the whole thing, was Sheamus's new group. I look at them and I just want to call them the Peaky Blinders. And that's like, they just remind me of the Peaky Blinders. That's it. And it's like, man, Sheamus, they will not quit on him. He's been there for like 13 years or so. And it's like, he's always going to have a role of some kind.
Yeah. I mean, at least he's not winning world titles is the best I can say, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So next we had Pat McAfee and Austin Theory with Mr. McMahon. I'm going to talk about this whole sequence because this was insane. Then, because then they had, after that, they had McMahon beat Pat McAfee. So I want to point out in kayfabe, Mr. McMahon, who's just like a 70-something-year-old man.
76, I looked it up.
Yeah. Is greater than Pat McAfee, who's a commentator, who is greater than Austin Theory, who is a full-time professional wrestler for them. Like, what the fuck? Like, it defeats everything that they're trying to do. Like, they have Pat McAfee go over Austin Theory, and it's like, okay, I guess, like, I don't think that's the right call because one's a full-timer that, like, theoretically you're trying to push for bigger things. I don't know.
They announced him. Vince McMahon announced him as a future Universal Champion.
Yeah. So there's that. But I'm like, okay, well, I guess you want to give the feel-good ending, which is hilarious because one match ago you had these guys lose after their friend was paralyzed and they were coming for revenge. So okay. So they had Pat McAfee go over. So I'm like, oh, okay. But then they have Pat McAfee lose like seconds later. And it's like, why didn't you just do that in the Austin Theory match? Like, was it just the bit to get like McMahon, like have a Vince McMahon match on the card? Was that super important, even though you didn't advertise it? Both the Steve Austin McMahon thing were like things that they said early on, but then they're like, no, they won't be in matches. They'll be in segments or other matches. And you're like, oh, okay. But then they just had matches anyway. So it's like, what the fuck was the point of all this? Like, why didn't you just have, if you wanted to do the thing you did, why didn't you just have Austin Theory beat Pat McAfee due to like a low blow from Vince or something, and then they're stomping him, and then Steve Austin comes down? Like, you could have done all that stuff. It was so, like, it was such an ass backwards way to get into the thing that they wanted to do.
It was baffling. Now, the McAfee Theory match, if they had just left it at that, I probably would have been like, all right, that was fun.
Yeah. I mean, McAfee was over as shit. People loved him. Like, yeah. I could understand that.
Yeah. If they had left it at just that match, I'd have been like, all right, fine. And personal opinion, I don't think Austin Theory is that interesting. We talk about lack of charisma.
No, I agree.
Yeah. I look at him. He's just a bland creator wrestler guy, but theoretically, you're trying to convince me that he's more than what my initial impression was. And this show just made me think even less of him because it's like, oh, he's just a joke. Okay. Because, McAfee's better than him. McMahon's better than him. And then Austin's better than all of them. So it's just, he's at the bottom of that totem pole. And it's like, well, good job building a new star there. But it looked so bad having McAfee jump all over the place and dance circles around this young athletic guy in Austin Theory, and then turn around and sell clotheslines to a 76-year-old man. It looked so unbelievable that it completely drained the life out of the segment for me. Like, you talk about believability. Yeah, you talk about believability. I could not believe any of what was happening during that portion of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Did he just want a WrestleMania win or something? Is that like what he want? I don't know. It was.
Maybe he got his first Mania win. Yeah.
There you go.
And then he took the worst Stone Cold Steve Austin or Stone Cold Stunner of all time.
How do you fuck that? Like, it's just amazing, like how bad he is at that.
He's
Like every
76
time.
years old. That's why you fucked him up. He shouldn't
Yeah,
be
but he
in
wasn't
there.
even when he was like even in like 97, he like fell over him and it just like, come on. Um all right, so then let's get to our last match here, our main event. Is Roman Reigns defeating Brock Lesnar. And okay, so we can make all the jokes we want about Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar and how many fucking times they fought. They pump this match up to the umpteenth degree, and they come out, and it feels like such a big deal and such a big fight. The audience is into it. Like it looks like it's a big fight, and you're like, well, hey, the first match, the 2015 match, was pretty good. 2018 wasn't, but like we're in a different spot now. Roman's a heel that's over. Brock is a face that's over. Like, this could work, and they have this match, and it's just like the most anticlimactic. Like, I think I heard something about, maybe something went wrong and they had to go home early, but it was just it reminded me of the Undertaker Roman match from a few years ago.
Oh dear. I don't know if it was that bad, but it's still kind
of
no,
no. But I'm saying it was for this for the investment that they put in Brock. He just spears him and that's it. Like that's how you beat him. Like this is like the Brock's and Roman are like the final bosses. So it's like after all the matches where they like trade spears and F5s and stuff, like he hit like one spear on him.
Yeah, I get that. I think I liked the match a little bit more than you did. I think the big fight feel kind of persisted throughout the match itself, so I was kind of okay with it. But I'm with you on the ending where it kind of felt like a little out of nowhere, because I thought if Brock was going to go over that counter into the Kimura, which may have legitimately hurt Roman, so that's probably what happened there. But if that had been the finish, that would have been outstanding. But yeah, I think Roman was legit hurt on that Kimura lock, so that's why they kind of rushed into the finish.
Yeah, he had like a protrusion on his arm at the end, but yeah. Yeah, so that was WrestleMania. What was your overall thoughts?
Overall, I enjoyed it. It's probably the most I've enjoyed WrestleMania at least since 30 overall. Like, it was a solidly entertaining, memorable show both nights.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. That would be how I described it. Yeah, it was we'll see what they do next year. It feels like we've gone through for the past few years. We've known what the main events were going to be for the next like 4 years. So like next year is like the last one that we know of. It's apparently supposed to be Rock and Roman. So we'll see if that comes to fruition, if that's like what they're going to do. But yeah, it's because we've known this was going to be Roman and Brock for a while. And I really hope we're done with Roman and Brock, because we've all seen this match more times than any of us need to.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We don't need to see it again. We're perfectly fine.
Yeah. I know we have more to talk about, but I also know that we're kind of at time here. So why don't we won't have a big WrestleMania show to talk about next week or the week after. So why don't we save some of the other stuff for them, and we'll do the mailbag next week.
All right. That sounds like a plan.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, and by the way, you can email us at
weekdaywarriors2020@gmail.com. I will have it in the description below.
And we will definitely have it next week, I promise. But thank you, everybody, for listening, as always. I'm Erik Clancy, joined by Patrick Kelley, and we are
signing off.